Back. Thieves nicked our shit. Marksman, raiders, a leader. Should be. That ability that the one guy has always acts first on the very turn of combat. It's one of the least useful abilities. Like, wanting to act first on the very first turn of combat. It's like, unless it's an archer that has it. And even then, a lot of times, there aren't targets in range. Not that useful. That lad has a spear. I'm completely unafraid of that. Oh! In the chest. At this point, our gear is so much better, and our brothers are so high level. These little raiders gave us so much trouble early in the game. This is just going to be a slaughter. Fuck damn it. Nice, good hit. Remember, that legendary hammer is basically a two-handed axe. It does that much armor damage. Thunk. Let's dagger that lad down. His armor might be useful. Well, useful in the sense that it's worth selling. We're trying to maximize profits. Good lord, Horst. No. Oh, thank you. That's helpful. I love two-handed weapons. And Viking. Did you see any? We were watching the Blood Bowl last night. That orc team of mine is cursed. And no worries, man. School is way more important than any bullshit stream. Ah, and disarm that nerd. Break his shield? I think don't bother breaking the shield. Ow! You mean our guys, our lads' gear looking scary? I should hope so. We've got legendaries for almost everyone on the front line at this point. But getting our hands on legendary weapons has proven a lot more challenging. Getting legendary shields, it just becomes irritating at a certain point. Legendary shields just feel like trash, like there's so many of them. Run him down. 6 armor. And what do we get? Nothing. When I fight those greenskins, I think the two-handed weapons are not what we need. We're better off using the one-handed weapons and shields. Then it's just a question of, are we going to use the kite shields or the heater shields? I think I'll see what the composition of the enemies is. I mean, at this point, like, I don't have anyone who's a shield specialist, so I don't want any of the legendary shields. I've gone through a bunch of them. I've had a number of legendary shields get destroyed, but I just don't care because I never use them. But in future, I probably should make more of an effort to get dedicated tanks. And as we saw in that barbarian fight, dedicated tank character would actually be something that I need. Just as was pointed out by the viewers, having someone who can keep a bunch of enemies busy, really important. Well, the thing about those weapons, like the goblin ones can sometimes be okay. The orc ones tend to have higher damage numbers, which is great, but you need someone with iron lungs to even have a chance of being able to use them. Oop. Oop. I do wish that they would have certain classes be predisposed to getting stars in certain slots. Like a hunter shouldn't be able to get melee skill stars. That's loads of fatigue, but I'm looking for someone with at least 2 stars in fatigue and 2 stars in melee defense. Thinking of building a nice tank. Well, the thing is though, Maporius, like, I would advise you now, with that kind of guy, with that kind of dude, you think, okay, fine, he's a peasant, he's got no melee skill. But as was pointed out and made perfectly clear to me in some of that, like that barbarian fight, if you have someone with huge fatigue, if he has iron lungs as well, he doesn't need as many stars in fatigue because he's going to regenerate quicker. But if you get someone with iron lungs and very big defensive numbers, you can make a pretty devastating sword master type character. You can have someone who, if he just has high enough defense and iron lungs, and with sword specialization, going into the riposte stance costs 19 fatigue. So you make him a light armor guy, you give him dodge, you give him huge initiative, so he gets his base defense plus the initiative from dodge. And then every turn you only use riposte, so your fatigue doesn't go down. So let's say you get plus 15 to 20 defense from your dodgy, plus you have 30 or 40 or 50 in melee defense base, plus your defense from a shield. You can get like 60, 70, maybe 80 defense, even without using shield wall. And then he can just sit outside the flank and get surrounded and just riposte people and just keep them busy. But of course, finding a brother like that, pretty rare. Oh, come on, lads. Game of Cards comes to a table flipping end when Nixus jumps off his stool and launches a tirade at MK2. Professional gambler looks around with sheepish incredulity. How could such a man come into so much money over a game of cards, he asks, but when his hands go up to feign confusion, the extra cards slip out of his sleeves. The ensuing battle is amusing, but you've got to stop to it before anyone gets hurt. The other build I would suggest, if you can get your hands on it, is if someone has, like, say, 3 stars in melee skill and either a lot of fatigue or iron lungs, and they don't have a lot of melee defense, then you've got someone who's going to be a dagger specialist. Put them in light armor, you give them shield specialization. I've spoken a lot about dagger specialists and I've used them before, and I found that they do tend to fall off quite a lot later on. However, like, I wish I had a specialized dagger specialist now, because one thing that's become clear to me from this playthrough is how important breaking enemies' morale actually is. I mean, if you have someone who's a dagger specialist and they're going to use puncture, they don't need to take fearsome because they're going to be breaking morale quite reliably. Oh, leave us alone. Oh, there's a champion, Alma the Cruel. Okay, so we're going to go fight that now. Chief, my legendary. Give these gobbos the slip. No! There's some marksmen, many raiders, and a leader. I need that for orcs. Well, I mean, it is amazing for orcs, but don't forget that any organic big bad, like a lindworm, I haven't actually tested it, but lindworms and even shrat and barbarians as well were hard to fight. Any organic target, one of the best ways to beat them is to break their morale. Especially the raiders, the little brigand raiders, they don't have a lot of resolve. And many is the time when I used to have a dagger specialist. You move forward, one guy in the beginning, in the front I mean, dagger specialization, backstabber, dagger specialization, so he attacks 3 times. Comes in the middle, he goes stab, 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 kills someone, and then it takes 2 or 3 hits to kill the opponent. So if it takes 3 hits and you kill him on the 3rd hit, you're doing 15 to 25 hit point damage. So there's 3 hits, each one is making that guy roll for a morale check. And the guys around him makes them roll for morale check. And if you kill him on the 3rd hit, that's 4 hits. That's 4 rolls for morale for the people around him. And if you get lucky with it, it can spread out like a shockwave. And you can have an entire wall of enemies. In the beginning, you stab, 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 kill the one guy, and fully half of them are just fleeing. I think so, Hefas, but I'm willing to be corrected on that. They might not have morale. We know that lindworms do have morale, because we saw in the last fight that the lindworms, we were able to break a lindworm's morale. And like, you saw how hard it was to fight that lindworm. But just think, if instead of having to fight it straight up, we're able to just break their morale and have them flee. Alma the Cruel, we're going to need daggers to get his armor. Gonna do way. ¿Por qué? What? A 3-way? No. Yes, my whole squad is at least level 11 here. My lowest level boys are Sinrig, who's level 12, and Onifant. Some of the boys up front are approaching level 20. Pretty great. Oh my god, a legendary shield. I really wish that they would tweak the numbers of legendary weapons. Oh, should have shot that one. I mean, yeah, look, don't get me wrong, it is a very nice shield. That particular one there. Oh, and hit him in the head. Shot! I'm happy to mod. I've modded XCOM extensively, but I'm reluctant to start modding. Just because I know what a ball ache it is to mess around with mod compatibility and trying to find out which one's causing the problem. It's just such a ball ache. Got 2 pretty scary dudes here. Let's disarm that one. No, they're not. Flail damage just isn't reliable enough. Like if you've got a 2-handed flail, you're doing 40 to 100 damage. So if you roll 100, that's great. And it bypasses shields, and it can stun, and it can hit the head more likely. But if it rolls 40 damage, that's hopeless. But that's another reason why, if you get a guy with iron lungs, you should think that maybe giving him an orc weapon, because one of my best guys I ever had, I think he had 2 stars in melee skill, 3 stars in melee defense, and 3 stars in fatigue and iron lungs. This is many seasons ago. And I made him a orc flail user. He was so good. He was fucking lethal. Also, you know what? Another reason why you should make the argument for getting yourself a dedicated dagger specialist is actually the economic argument. I mean, like, there's so many times you're going to be fighting guys whose armor you want. And just being able to dagger them down ends up saving you money. Get him! Yeah, no problem with money is something I hear pretty consistently from everybody, but I spend. I'm very prepared to spend. So I don't feel like we're struggling for money, but again, that could be this background. This is the Caravan hand background. Please don't tell me this dude is going to attack before us. I doubt it. Broke a shield, fine. That's why I tend to not bother with shields. If you give it to someone who's not a shield specialist, that shield isn't going to last very long. See how that broke his morale and made all these guys waver. I just think if every hit you're doing does that, with every single person. So if you have 7 frontline lads, each attacking twice a turn, that's 14 instances of your enemies having to roll for mental resistance. Also, seeing that there, I'm pretty sure hit the marksman in the head. One of my experimentation builds with the peasants, I think the most successful one I had was every single guy up front. I think 9 of them up front, all with shield specialization, all with axe specialization, and just fighting with shield and one-handed axe. And when you give them fighting axes, you can pretty much one-shot most of the shields. And having 9 of them, it was so good. It was so efficient. Thing is, you don't have as much damage that you can do. Like with my setup here, with my 2-handed weapons, I could do more damage than that peasant militia. But the peasant guys are so reliable with their damage. Because you just ignore shields, you know, for the most part. And it's actually pretty damn good against the undead. Because you ruin their shields, and you do great armor damage. And I don't think it's worth giving your guys Headhunter. Just naturally, 25% of the time, you'll hit the head. And against a lot of enemies, if you hit the head with a fighting axe, whatever you hit just dies. It's not uncommon to one-shot a raider if they're not wearing head armor. Because if you think a fighting axe does, what, 35 to 55, hit the head, increase that by 50%. So you're doing 60-something to 75 to the head. Get 'em, boys. It's great that my lads are tough enough to be able to survive the tier 2 crossbows now. Because for the longest part of the campaign, that's the single biggest killer of all of our lads. Those bloody marksmen with their bloody crossbows. Shooting boys. Yes, unfortunately, because part of the theme, if you will, of this playthrough with Damage Inc. is to be very offensive-minded. So for my two-handed lads, this is the perk leveling order. Student, Recover, Rotation, Brawny, Weapon Spec, Reach Advantage, Underdog, Berserk, Killing Frenzy. I mean, I feel like, I mean, look at these armor values: 316 plus 340, 72 hit points. You can survive a hit to the head. Yeah, that's, I would agree with that, Poco. So like that has been a big lesson for me. In future, I'm really only going to give reach advantage to someone who's like using a great sword. And in the formation, the standard 7 up front, 5 at the back, it's really only the guys on the outside flanks who actually need reach advantage. So like my torturers normally sit in the center of the formation, so they're only getting, if you're in the center of the formation, you're only going to be in contact with 2, at most 2 enemies at once. Art great swords, yeah. What makes this game so good? You can sit and theory craft about perk leveling for hours and hours and hours. What I always say is that there's no objectively right or wrong perk choice. It's just as long as you play accordingly for the way that you have leveled your guys, and know that there's situations where you'll be stronger and where you'll be weaker. Not yet. To make the retraining potion, I think you need the Kraken tentacle, which we don't have yet. And speaking of the retraining, I do need it. For Pumulus Tristus, where is he? He's got decent stats, but I leveled him wrong. So instead of Quick Hands and Steel Brow, he needs Killing Frenzy and either Reach Advantage or something else. Yeah, the retraining potion, you need the Kraken tentacle. With retraining pot, you can get gifted many times and it stacks. Really? What, so you could take gifted 11 times? Then you wouldn't have any other perks though. I mean, even if that works, that sounds like abuse to me, and I don't do that. Stop destroying his armor, boys! Stabby, stab, stab. All the stabbing still makes me think I one day want to make a dedicated, like a thieves build where everybody has dagger specialization. It would be great in some situations and dreadful in others. If you're fighting organics, I think it would be pretty damn good. But if I was going to do that, I think I would do it with the peasant militia. And then alternate. Half the lads axe specialization, half of them dagger specialization. You retrain, you don't lose the stats gained from gifted. I think you're suggesting that crafting the retraining potion multiple times. That sounds like a hell of a lot of work. But then again, you can't, because you can only kill the Kraken once and get the Kraken tentacle once. Can more than once, I didn't know that. I still love that little snick sound that the dagger makes. Snick, snick, snick. The Bull of Ulhart's shield. So 20 and 15, not even, you know, improved median range defense. Maximum fatigue 18, that is dreadful. Shield skills build up 2 less fatigue. And 61 durability, it's nice and durable. Probably be selling that. I don't think that's even worth keeping or using. so disappointing. What legendary weapons, damn it. If there is a champion. What? Well, here's the witch hut. We'll try the witch hut next. So in the witch hut there's loads of monsters and a bunch of hexen. So for the hexen I think I want my archers, but what I really need is a bunch of these armors with that armor attachment for the plus will. But I think before I fight this I need to make that bravery potion to increase my bannerman's will, give everyone the very best chance of not getting mind controlled. Because in fighting hexen, it never feels worth it. It's such a bummer. Because what will happen is someone like Alstier with his 93 melee skill will get mind controlled. He'll just one-shot my own lads. I've got one so far. Immunity against fear and mind control, but we're gonna have to be dealing with Unhold here. It's not impossible. We can level the boys up, or I mean, let the boys rest, and then we can just see how they go. 5 resolve. I mean, I have got 2 dedicated whip lads, so unless these 2 get mind controlled, I should be able to fairly reliably disarm my lads. Maybe I give the undead trophy to one of these 2 lads. Bog hosts. But for real, before we do this fight, I need to craft that will increase potion. And for that I need spider poison. So we need to run into some spiders first. Ooh, unholds. We actually need the unhold leather. Thoughts on passing on student perk on 8 or 9 star brothers? I never pass on student because you always get the perk point back. So at the 11th character level you gain an additional perk point and this perk becomes inert. So I will almost always take student at level 1. Because you see the guys who have student, they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, 10, 11 perks, and brothers who don't take student have 10. So if you don't take student, you take 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 9, 10. But for me, even fodder brothers, I still take student, because even if they fodder, you still want them leveling up quickly. Sinrig, I need these lads in this fight. Okay, let's take this unhold fight. We need the leather. Let's bear in mind that these things are quicker than us, so they are going to attack before us on the next turn. That being said, make the argument for moving towards them. No, we've got good high ground here. I should get in the habit of fighting with the health bars on if I'm fighting unholds. Focusing on one and bursting them down is so important. But look at this fight now. Just imagine if every single one of my brothers has fearsome. Like, I can't get that out of my head how effective that I hope Pain Ink is going to be. Focus down this one here in the middle. Yes, yes, I am making a new company for the DLC. It's going to be Pain Inc. And the theme is similar leveling, but I'm going to go more defensive on the front line, so less two-handed weapons. If we have 7 up front, I think 2 of them will be great sword users. The guys on the outside flanks will be great sword users, so they can swing in arcs. And the rest of the guys will be shield users. I might even go full shields and swords or spears, and weapon types we'll think about, maybe even flails. The essential theme of Pain Inc. is going to be everyone's going to take fearsome. And we hopefully, and yeah, so every single person will have fearsome, and every single person will wear a direwolf attachment to lower resolve by 5. And it's just going to be, we just break the morale of everything we fight. Which obviously makes us weaker against undead, but in this current playthrough, undead are the least of my worries. Trading, there are new backgrounds, so I don't think it'll be the trading caravan background. We'll try one of the new backgrounds. Probably the last turn we're going to have where Frontline can use Indom. Think how dark and gritty a Battle Brothers TV show would be. People dying every friggin' episode. Game of Thrones my ass, everybody dies. I do love these throwing guys, and Headhunter, I'm glad I took Headhunter on my throwing lad. See, there were 2 hits of javelins there. Let's take a look. So Nobel uses throw javelin, hits the head for 61 damage, hits the Unhold's body and kills. Okay. God, but the first 4 seasons of Game of Thrones was so amazing. I saw a meme on Reddit that made me chuckle when it showed a picture of the sand snakes and it said, "Remember back when this was the worst part of Game of Thrones?" It's like, remember people losing their shit and hating the sand snakes plotline. But after watching season 8, the sand snakes plotline is like incredibly good writing. You say you want a bad girl, but you want a what's it a good girl, but you want a bad pussy. Ugh. And of all the sand snakes, it was only the young girls that were lame. I thought Hilaria Sand was amazing, but I've got such a soft spot for the actress that plays her. I forget her name. But I remember she was in Rome. She was the wife in Rome. What's her name? Fuck, she was good. Yeah, see, she was amazing in Rome. I loved her. Fuck, she was good. Rome overall is such an amazing show. Indira Varma, yep. Great. Serious crush on her. God, she's good. Ah! 95, miss. Because if this warband has a motto, it's 95%. Yeah, I can miss that. These lads should be XCOM recruits. I still reckon that the guys in Rome had the best bromance. I mean, Joey and Chandler, JD and Turk, these are incredible bromances, but Varinus and oh my god, I'm blanking on Titus Pulo. Their bromance was amazing. When Pulo was getting executed and Varinus goes in to fight him, Pulo is like, 13! 13! Oh god. Goosebumps. This Game of Thrones memed my Discord, oh god. What have you done? Yeah, Pulo was a badass. Yeah, he's all matter of fact about it. Spartacus was pretty good, but it just doesn't really compare to Rome. But it's kind of like comparing the Pacific to Band of Brothers. It's really not a fair comparison. Yeah, but Jupiter's cock. I do like in Rome how they showed how the Romans were friggin', you know, blasphemous and big cock obsessed. You know. As much as I love Pulo though, and his storyline with Niobe, I thought that was probably the weakest part of the story. Like how quickly she develops Stockholm syndrome and falls in love with Pulo. I mean, after Pulo crushed her fiance's head against the fucking wall, and then 2 episodes later, she's like, "Okay, I marry you." One thing I appreciate Spartacus for was that they seem to have a titty quotient. Like, okay, we have to have at least 5 minutes of boobies in every episode. Ow! Oh, damn it, these things inflict injuries, man. I watched a couple episodes of Black Sails, and I lost interest pretty quick. But lately, I've been on a big true crime documentary binge. For all of you, if you haven't watched Don't Fuck With Cats, oh my god, you have to watch that documentary. It is so spooky. But Don't Fuck With Cats was amazing, and then I watched Mindhunters. Mindhunters was really good. And then I watched, there's this awesome Netflix documentary. Yeah, True Detective's amazing. There's a Netflix documentary called Wild Wild Country, which is also incredible. It's about the Sannyasins. Basically bought this gigantic ranch and tried to take over a whole town. America. 10 out of 10. Amazing documentary. Loved it. And apparently that Aaron Hernandez documentary is really good. I need to watch that. Find Horst, the increasingly paranoid sellsword, huddled by himself with his hands around his knee. Despite the infantile posture, his eyes are steeled and he's keeping careful watch of everything. You ask him how he's doing, he simply laughs. I don't know, sir. Just surrounded by a mob of money-driven assholes who will stab me in the back whenever it suits them. In a way, you understand where he's coming from, but you hope this mood is not contagious with it. Washed and up. In there, undead brigands. I still need to defeat another mercenary company. We've had this ambition for like 300 days now. I keep meaning to spend time in the north, and then when I run into a group in the north, fight them. I did watch The Witcher. Overall, I'd give it like an 8 out of 10. There were parts of it that were amazing, but there were some real low parts as well. Like episode 4 with the Hedgehog Knight was just so bad. I remember watching it and seeing the CGI on the Hedgehog guy. He just looked so lame. And then I'm seeing it's like a love story, and I remember I said out loud to the TV, I'm like, if this princess kisses him and it transforms him, I'm gonna vomit. And that's exactly what happened. It was so stupid. Yeah, also the Triss casting choice was dreadful. Triss is supposed to be like impossibly, breathtakingly beautiful. Like all the sorceresses are supposed to be so beautiful that they look otherworldly, and that actress is very pretty, very beautiful. But she's not like, she needs to be like Scarlett Johansson levels of hot. Like the Yennefer girl is absolutely hot enough. Okay, patrol the road. Yes, let's do this. Because now when we do the Goblin City, we'll get heads. Supposed to be younger and a redhead. Like I always thought. But then again, I have the video game bias. Because I thought that Yen and Triss from Witcher 2 and 3 is the way they should look. I have to admit, the amount of times I've walked around singing "Toss a coin to your Witcher," it's a super catchy song. 10 days of food, we're good for food. And I wish that they had called the jester, what was his name? Marigold. not Marigold. What's his name? What should we do first, lads? Witch Hut, Black Monolith, Eskia. What was he in Witcher 2? He was called called. It's so hard to remember things, and I've been working all day. Dandelion, there we go. Yeah, Dandelion. This whole having a full-time job thing is such bullshit. Priest, my gods. I wouldn't mind fighting. We see Ancient Dead. I should fight. Wait, those are Ancient Honor Gods. I could get War Scythes from there. I mean, like, this company would actually benefit from a couple War Scythe using polearm users. But honestly, if I go in against, like, if I were to fight. Let's look at these lads that we have here. Who would I take into the Black Monolith? The thrower you can take in, because he'll do plenty of friggin' damage. Someone like Horst might be fine. It'll be MK. What kind of numbers are we going to be looking at here? Unknown garrison. I think the first thing I want to do is make sure I fight them at night, and just to nullify their ranged advantage they're going to have. We will take battle whips on our front line in case these lads get injured and need to retreat. I think we'll go with heater shields, because the nighttime defensive bonus will hopefully be enough to keep us safe from their archers. Who has loads of fatigue here? 83 so far is the best. Well, like if you say a Darkest Dungeon TV show, the show that I want to watch would be The Ancestor. Like I want to see I want to see him losing his mind and you know, falling from grace, as it were. That's what I want to see. Okay, so. Like, I want to see the process of him, you know, going through in the beginning and finding the abominations and all that shit. That would be interesting. We've been saving these Night Owl elixirs for quite some time, and it's for just this reason here. We certainly need antidotes. We need at least one, maybe even 2 antidotes. Okay, good, there you go. I think everyone should take a dog in with them. I might feel like I want to release the hounds at some point. Right, we wait for nightfall, we fight the Goblin City. What should we be coming on? 44 minutes on the next battle, next episode. Well, I mean, who would you cast as the ancestor? It would have to be voiced by Wayne June. You know what? Find a dead goblin. It's no ordinary goblin. He's an elder. He or she is showing signs of dying of old age. There's also ceremonial trinkets all about it. This here goblin didn't get here by accident. It died and received the proper burial, which means only one thing. You're in those damn greenskins. God. Like, who would be a good ancestor? Need someone super charismatic. Older gent, super charismatic. And he'd have to be able to just have like, it would have to be like a voiceover, like a Wayne June voiceover. Okay, 44 minutes. Okay, YouTube people, when we come back. Kurt Russell. Gary Oldman, yeah, that would be, he's brilliant. Okay, here's my pitch, the studio executive. I want a Darkest Dungeon TV series, but it's going to be animated. Animated in the Darkest Dungeon style, and not fully animated, part animated like that. And that way, You can have, yeah, you know what? Just have a TV series like the cutscenes are doing, how the cutscenes are done in the game. Mark Hamill's an amazing voice actor, yeah, but I mean, if you used anyone except for Wayne June. Okay, when we come back, Goblin City time.